Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to another discussion with the scholarly Bhante Dr. Pemaratana is joining with me today. Bhante, how are you?
I'm very
How's your
fine.
morning so far?
Yes, it was a nice morning. We had yes, Bhante. So we had a nice beginning of the day, with a nice breakfast. Yes, yeah.
All right. So for those folks who I don't think that many of you do not know him, many of you may know him, Bhante Pemaratana. Just to get to the point today, about the discussion, I would like to paraphrase his bio a little bit. Our topic for discussion today is how to handle angry thoughts and feelings, a Buddhist perspective. Bhante Dr. Surakulame Pemaratana comes from Sri Lanka, but now he has been living in the US for almost probably 15 years, 15 to 20 years. And he serves as the chief abbot of Pittsburgh Buddhist Center, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, US. He teaches Buddhism and meditation and provides spiritual counseling to help people deal with challenging issues of life. In addition to his Dhammaduta services, actually this is only just a small drop of his activities. The true activities have been extended to many countries, even what you have been doing here, Singapore, Malaysia, and many other countries, not even US. You've been contributing a lot, and while you have been engaging in the Dhammaduta activities, you have been a promising academician. So you teach at the same time. I think you will be teaching Asian religions at John Carroll University, Cleveland. I think it's in Ohio, as an adjunct professor. Bhante, thank you for sitting down with me to talk.
Yeah, and thank you also for inviting me. I have been watching and listening to many programs that we have been webcasting for some time now, and they were very good quality program. I really enjoy your discussion with Professor P.D. Pemarathana. So thank you for inviting me for this. Yeah.
My pleasure, and then the pleasure of the Dhamma as well. Bhante, today we are going to discuss about, I would say, how to deal with angry thoughts and then the feelings, how probably we have to discuss about whether thoughts come first or whether feelings come first. So can you, in the first place, identify what is a thought and what is a feeling, and how we can bring these negative emotions like anger onto that?
Yeah. Yes, Bhante, when you suggested these topics, and I was also, thinking about, you say that angry thoughts and angry feelings. So definitely there's a strong connection between thoughts and feeling, means how we think and how we feel. So even in psychology, we talk about, our thoughts are basically how we interpret the world, our cognitive processes and our interpretation, our ruminations, and our ideas, our opinions. Those are the thoughts. They are more of a cognitive nature. And then feelings are related to emotion. That is more like a emotional nature. It's more like a forceful mental emotional states that we are having. So these are two very important states of our mental life. And then when we think about which comes first, mostly, Bhante, the thoughts will give rise to emotional states. So initially we will have a thought, of course even before that we will have some sensory encounter, some sensory impressions, or maybe even main sensory impressions. So we see, hear or smell, we get some information from our environment, and then we will interpret it, and we will think about it, we will name it, and then we will connect our previous memories to it. So we will have some cognitive evaluation on that, and then based on how we interpret it, what kind of thoughts we generate, that will give rise to a specific emotional state, more of the feeling state, and then in turn our emotions, our feelings will also can generate physical states too, like heavy breath, or maybe tightness in the muscles, and then they can again generate another kind of thought. So ultimately it become a loop. Yeah. Initially the sensory impressions give rise to thoughts, and thoughts give rise to feelings and emotions, and feelings and emotions will generate other physical changes, and that will create another thought, and it can be a loop and circle. So
it's like a two-way process.
Yes,
All right.
exactly, yeah.
So Bhante, I think many people might be interested about how to overcome anger. So we have to look at that part by at least a little bit talking about what is anger and how do we look at it from the Buddhist perspective. Now there's a Pali word called pativineti. The Buddha uses this word called for anger, overcoming anger. So if you look at many suttas, especially, taking one sutta over here, Lekha Sutta, Anguttara Nikaya 3.130, 130. In this sutta, Buddha says that there are 3 types of people who might be dealing with anger in different ways. Each one is related, each one is, I would say, given in an inscription type of example. The first one is an inscription in rock. That means pasana lekupama, which means there are people who get angry
and keep it for a long time.
And then that anger stays over the time. So this is the first person. Second one is similar to an inscription in soil. That means it's also
sand,
getting angry.
Like sand, like line written on the sand.
Yes.
Stay for a while.
But then diminishes. The third person is called Udaka Lekupama. That means it is like an inscription, maybe a drawing, somebody makes it in water. He might not probably get angry, probably not, but the anger is so much managed, dealt with by that person. It's said that agal ke napi parusenapi vuchamano amanapenapi sandiyati sansandati sammodati. That means when other people are speaking what you call rough words, very harsh words, this person is always trying to be congenial, companionable and courteous to that kind of conduct, not trying to retaliate, not trying to put him back. So that means anger is a normal emotion. We cannot say that anger is something that is evil in the first place. Anger could be evil. It's like money. Money is not evil. It's the way how people use the money, right? So in the same way, how do we understand anger in the first place before we go into different degrees of anger? For example, do you see that whether we can have a healthy dislike, and then how do we take it in the form of dosa or anger?
Yes, I think you brought up a very important point, Bhante. Anger, whether it's going to be harmful, unhealthy, it depends on the gravity, intensity of the anger, and then how influential it can be with regard to our behavior. So, although we use this term anger, it does not refer to one thing. Actually, what we call anger in our normal language refers to a spectrum. Like a large spectrum, and therefore in the Buddhist Pali language we have specific terms to refer to different degrees of the anger, different degrees of this mental state, so what we call anger, and initial disagreeableness of the sensory stimulus is normal. We know that whenever we hear, smell, taste, whenever we see anything, there are agreeable objects, there are disagreeable objects, and as a human being, we will recognize. In Pali we use the term satha and asatha. Right, the satha is like appealing, maybe agreeable, maybe pleasant, and asatha is like disagreeable, unpleasant. So certain sounds can be unpleasant, certain sound can be pleasant, and taste and what we see, images. So that is normal, and then usually we will have we will be at peace with the pleasant stimulus, present sense objects, and we'll be a little bit uncomfortable with the disagreeable objects. To that level, it is human, it is normal. And from there, where we are going to develop our mental state, that is where we have to pay attention to. From initial disagreeable state, we can go into a very, very extreme, intensified levels of anger that can be really harmful physically and mentally, and also can be harmful to our spiritual growth. And even we may even ended up being doing very unwholesome bad karma as a result of that.
Can you give us an example of dislike that is not dosa, that is not dosa or anger, but it is still a dislike, like a healthy dislike?
Maybe like, let's say something, Bhante, unhealthy food, for example.
Okay.
Let's say there is a food that is not palatable, that you are not used to eat it, and it's not palatable and also maybe unhealthy, and then you can have maybe disapproval of that food, and then you can avoid that food eating, right? And so it could be an example of what we call, it's not necessarily angry, but the healthy dislike.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, Bhante. So let's try to see whether there is a certain gradual level of degree of dosa. Now, the larger, broader word is dosa.
Dosa, yes.
We could say hatred or hate, wherein which we see the different minor to grosser level of this dosa. Yes. Well, do you see a list of words? Now, I can actually give you some loose explanation about, let's say, koda. Probably upanaha,
yes.
And then patiga, vyapada, aghata. There are so many words.
These are the words, but we can actually line them up, Bhante, according to the gravity of the mental
state. Could you sort of
Bhante,
try to locate them in people's anger, people's dosa?
So dosa is, as you mentioned, Bhante, is a larger category,
bigger version.
Umbrella term to refer to all mental state that is related to resentment, related to dislike and disagreeableness. But I think among the words that you just mentioned, if I line them up, the term patiga is used in Pali to refer to resistance. Irritability, like initial irritability. Because when Buddha talks about how anger arises in us, and he talks about the main two reasons for anger to arise is patiga. One important starting point of anger is patiga nimitta, the sign of patiga, the sign of disagreeableness, sign of
what is going to be the object for your patiga, right?
Like it's like the opposite of patiga in that state, earlier state called anunaya. Anunaya, like you are at peace with it, you are okay with that. And patiga is that you are not necessarily okay with that. So the patiga could be initial state of dislike, and then like a irritation. And then we have the term after patiga, we can say koda. Koda would be like what we call anger.
Okay.
Koda. And then it can develop into vyapada, which is like an enduring state. Koda is something like maybe anger is arising and passing, but the what we call vyapada is a state of the mind, little enduring state of the mind, what you call ill will, and then the upanaha,
revenge.
It's little bit like a maliciousness or like a more
consistent malice.
Maybe like you mentioned in the inscription, like a stone.
Stone,
can
inscription.
Stay for years,
Just as an inscription written in rock.
Yes. Upanaha. So this is how I would like to line them up. Patiga, Patigha can, or sometimes means in a different level too, but in a specific context of where Buddha talks about Patigha, Nimitta, and then the Subha Nimitta. The Patigha Nimitta and Subha Nimitta. And then also Patigha and Anvaya. In that context, Patigha means initial irritation, and that can lead into Kodha, that can lead into Vyapada, and then that can lead into Upanaha, and that all these things can be called dosa.
Yeah. So they could be kind of what you call interconnected in some ways.
Actually,
not necessarily.
They are growing. Yeah, actually, they are interconnected, Bhante. Because
some
if
ways,
you don't take care of the initial state, like as I mentioned, it's a spectrum. And if you don't pay attention, if you didn't become aware of the Patigha stage, it will definitely go into the next stage. If we are still not paying attention, or are not mindful of that stage, it is going to other stage. It's like we start with initial unpleasant experience of dislike and disapproval, and then we become annoyed, and we start to resist, and we can have anger, frustration, and then it can go into rage, and then ill will, and then hostility. So
interesting.
I think the lack of mindfulness, lack of awareness can lead us to all this intensified state of anger. If you can become aware of any stage, and that is where you start handle it. So I think our training, what the Buddha has given us this technique, training should be to even to catch the initial state of Patigha, initial state of irritation,
conflictor.
Yeah, if you can become aware, be mindful of the initial state of the irritation, maybe you'll be able to handle it without letting it to become a strong anger and later rage. Yes.
Can we take another Pali word called aghata? Translated to be
actually,
resentment. Actually,
I think it's maybe in between Kodha and Patigha we can place aghata.
How do you explain aghata in simple English?
Yes, I think you translated it.
Resentment, but if it's an English word, so can we make it a little bit? Because there are many suttas in the Anguttara Nikaya, aghata, pativini.
Yes.
So, to my understanding, aghata means kind of a long-term anger. Like there are 10 ways where people make aghata in one of the suttas, Anguttara Nikaya 1080.
Yes.
Anattam me achari, anattam me charati, anattam me charisati. It means somebody is behaving in a way that is not meaningful to me.
Not beneficial to me.
And also behaved in the past and will behave. And also
he will also behave unbeneficially to people who are
my friends also.
Yes.
And also somebody is going to support people who I don't like also. There also I create resentment. Right? So these are all types of resentment. That means probably since morning.
These are the initial. This is like our dislike and our disapproval and our hesitant to accept. And definitely anger.
Yes. I mean these could be things that give a very big mental conflict, inner conflict from many aspects of many people's lives since they wake up. Sometimes you think about these things, these aspects. Somebody help me for those who I don't like. Somebody does not help me, those who I don't like. So he sleeps or she wakes up by thinking this. She goes to eat or he goes to eat by thinking this. She dreams or he dreams also by thinking. She drives and finally one day he or she will die by thinking such. So this is such a very dangerous thing to keep anger in the long run, long term. So that could be aghata, and then we have to.
I think the thinking like this. You mentioned the word thinking a few times. That helps us to understand the mechanism of anger. Exactly how anger arises in us. I think there's a very important discourse by the Buddha, what we call Titya Sutta, where Buddha described, how anger arises. And he just gives the two initial factors that will, that will lead us to feel angry. One is Patigha Nimitta, and the second factor is what you call ayoniso manasikara.
Uppata manasikara.
Yeah, the unwise
Attention.
thinking, unwise thinking. So unwise, interpretation or thinking or attention. So what you mean, like what this sutta is saying, that that person harmed me in the previous time, and this person will harm me. These are the examples of
projection, projected anger.
So simply having an irritable experience does not necessarily lead us to anger. The irritable experience will lead us to anger only when we combine our ayoniso manasikara, our unwise thinking, our interpretation, bringing up similar memories. So we will not be able to stop patigha nimitta. There are always irritable things,
happening,
things,
happening everywhere
around us. Even right now, Bhante, when we are talking here, right? So we get a sound, and they are cutting the grass over there. And so it's a kind of irritable, experience.
If we take it as it is.
Yeah. Maybe, so that is a good example of patigha nimitta. So the very, not pleasing, not soothing, irritable, and also disturbing our discussion in a way. But if we add ayoniso manasikara, then we can get angry. Because then we can interpret, and that's why that person has to do it right now.
Yes.
And maybe sometimes the one example of unwise thinking is taking it personally. If we interpreted that this person is trying to cut this grass to purposely disturb us, and then we can get really angry. So that is how our thinking,
our thinking,
our ayoniso manasikara is contributing to the anger. So what we can stop or manage is this part, not the irritable experience that we will have, but how we interpret it and how we
give the meaning to that.
Yeah, giving the meaning, and that part is where we can change and control, re-evaluate, and then based on that we can change our anger. We can manage our anger.
Bhante, can we take an example from a very famous sutta about patigha before we go to the subsequent states? As you can remember, naparo paranni kubbeta nati manyeta katta chinang kanchi bya rosana patigha sanya nanya manyassa dukkha micche. Let me translate. Naparo paranni kubbeta. Let nobody deceive another person. Naparu paranni kubbeta nati manyeta, let no one despise another person anywhere, anytime, with vyarosana patigha sanya. Rosa, I think it's kind of
another word, right?
Anger, and patigha sanya. Finally, interesting thing comes up. Nanya manyasa dukkha, let no one expect no one's unhappiness. Such a very profound state. So how do we bring that kind of situation into our practice?
Yes. Yeah. Again, Bhante, you brought the important part. How we can develop a mind that we will have less anger. So there are two ways to handle the anger. One is when we are angry, and how to manage that state of the mind. The other approach is actually develop certain skills, certain good state of the mind beforehand, before we get angry.
Upfront.
And then beforehand, more like a preventive measures, that we will be less likely to get angry. So what you mentioned as the phrase that we find in the
Metta Sutta
is that that's a higher level of practice in metta, because first you as a person genuinely create this willingness that may all people be free from suffering, may all people find well-being and happiness. So you just make that wish as a person, and then at the advanced level you wish that not only me, may all other people also wish each other's happiness. May all other people also have willingness for each other's well-being. No one, no one wish harm for another. So I think that will be like higher level of practice in metta, Bhante. Like as an individual, I wish well-being to all beings, but then as a more advanced level, more like a social aspect, I also wish that just like me, may each other also keep wishing well-being to each other. May they not expect or wish harm to another. And when we make that, wish, like continuous wish, as a practice of our meditation, you develop a mind that is very smooth, that you may encounter difficult people, you may encounter irritable people and irritable situations, but because of your prior training and prior, we call like bahuli kata, yani kata, vattu kata, right? When we really
constantly practice
and make it a second nature of us, and even though we find irritable people, irritable situation, we will recognize the irritability. We will recognize their unwise, behavior, and we will recognize they are troublemakers. But that will not irritate our anger.
Impact
us. And we notice them, we will skillfully, respond to that situation, but there will be no inner burn within us. So I think what you mentioned is actually a very important part of our loving kindness practice. Mostly, Bhante, we only focus on the first part, that we wish well-being to all others.
Yeah.
But in our actual meditation practice, we rarely incorporate the second aspect that you just mentioned, that we don't necessarily wish that we all other people also wish each other's well-being. May they not wish each other harm. I think maybe we should include into our loving kindness meditation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Bhante, now let's delineate about the subsequent, probably states of aversion, anger. I would say the dosa. There are not visibly anger, but they are what you call they are consequences. Probably they are actually effects from a certain type of dosa. Yeah. Say for instance, grief. When somebody passes away, we cry. And then yam pichang nalapati tampi dukkam. We wish things to happen, but things don't happen the way we want.
Yes.
So we are frustrated.
Yes.
Frustration.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we want to be with certain kind of loving people, but we cannot.
We cannot. Yeah.
And we have to be with people we don't like.
Yes.
So looks like that the dosa works in invisible ways, attached to certain other states of mind. So how do you bring this? How do you bring a sort of what you call insight about dosa, the connection the dosa has toward grief, sokha, domanassa, I would say frustration and all that.
Even to lobha, Bhante, Actually, the dosa is actually the discrepancy between what you expect and what really happens. Like, because you expect certain things to happen in a particular way, that means you have a desire, and you have expectation, you have craving. You like something to happen in a particular way, you like certain conditions in your life. So because of our desire, maybe craving, actually we develop dosa, our anger. So it's related to even our lives, because usually how we experience anger is that we expect in a particular way, we have certain desire. And then things doesn't happen the way we want them to be, the way we like, and then we definitely get
frustrated. So how does dosa affect frustration? How does dosa lie in that frustration? How does dosa lie in the grief?
Grief is the other manifestation. So the first we have, actually, it is the tanha, right? It's the craving that is manifested in all different ways. All the defilements can be called different manifestations of tanha, ultimately, even dosa. So, of course, we have certain likes and certain expectations when those things doesn't happen, and we have the frustration. And then that will give rise to different expression, different manifestation of what we call dosa.
Maybe we will end up with grief.
And then,
frustration ends up with grief.
Even sokha, grief, Bhante, is actually rejecting the loss. Not
accepting the true reality, what's happening.
It is common. We cannot blame anyone for having grief. But ultimately, underlying state of the grief is patigha.
We go back to patigha again.
We get patigha again.
That's why I said, now here patigha is not manifesting, invisible, and then frustration is visible. In that previous example, patigha is visible, and it works as a very solo thing.
But now this can be very tricky manifestation of patigha, right? So even when people cry, of course, when you feel sad and cry, we have to have empathy, but underlying that's crying. There is a disapproval, not accepting. There's a resentment. There's a state of resentment, fatigue. So even soccer is ultimately manifestation of our dislike, our resentment, and our inability to accept what really happened.
Bhante, let's talk about another dimension of those self-hatred and hatred about others. So people sometimes they hate themselves. They don't take care of themselves. They don't take a shower. They don't spend the life that they really work on them. They probably work on only other people. So then they might think that my energy has been drained by other people also. So self-hatred and hatred about others. So how do we look at these two dimensions?
It's a very important aspect of dimension of anger, Bhante. So anger is a state of the mind, but the orientation of anger can be different. Sometimes our anger can be directed towards others, and then in most cases our anger can be directed to ourselves too. Like as you mentioned, and again, because we have certain high expectations of ourselves, we are quite judgmental about ourselves, and therefore we are not happy with ourselves. And that can create what you call self-hatred. Actually, Bhante, that is the basis for us to have hate for other people. If someone is not happy with themselves, they are definitely going to be unhappy with many other people. If someone is not contented, someone is appreciative of oneself, definitely he's going to find faults in others. So therefore, I think that could be the reason that when we practice loving kindness meditation, we usually start with ourselves. Means that we have to accept who we are with our own weaknesses, and then understanding that we are still, we may not be perfect, but we're still worthy of our, loving kindness. And then reason that people start to hate themselves is because they set high expectation from themselves. They expect perfections from themselves. And then usually we learn from the society.
Perfectionism.
Yes, we learn from the society. And then society put expectations on us. And then we also buy it. And then we also set all these expectations to ourselves. And definitely in our practical life, we will not be able to achieve all these things. So therefore, as a result, we develop self-hatred. And once you develop self-hatred, you start to find faults in others and have all kind of other.
You're gonna mess up at the end. You're gonna mess up at the end. Yeah.
I think so. We really have to be really mindful of our self-hatred, and then and of course we need to recognize our goodness. And even in the meditation practices, we talk about Chaganusati, Silanusati, means that if you manage to follow precepts, if you manage to do some generous act, we have to appreciate it. Not as an individual act, not like claiming the ownership to the act, by appreciating that opportunity that I was able to be away from these defilements even for a moment, and appreciate that. And at the same time recognize that we are still practitioners, we are still in following this path, therefore I can be mindful, unwise at times, then learn to forgive oneself, learn to accept oneself, and then of course not be lazy, and then from there, have some kindness to oneself. Right. We are all struggling, sometimes we fail, sometimes we are successful, but having that, kindness and acceptance to oneself will help us a lot to accept others' weaknesses and also appreciate others' goodnesses too. That can be a very important way to overcome anger.
Can someone's anger in this life come from previous lives? And can someone's anger come from generations? Now, actually, I recently interviewed Professor Colorado University, and Boldy. What she said was that Aboriginals, First Nations angriest generation, or let's say the father has anger towards the British who colonized the US a long time ago before Columbus.
Yes.
So maybe after. So that anger is in their body. So with the blood they are giving it to the next generation. So let's talk about sansaric anger. Can someone come up with any? We have lots of stories too.
Yeah.
The anger is going into other lives too.
Yeah.
This is one aspect. We can comment on that. Next thing is this life. Do you think if the parents were very angry people, right? Could there be any anger that
Genetic.
must have gone to their children? And how to, we will talk about the overcoming part later.
Yeah. Yes, definitely, Bhante, our tendency to get angry or be irritable is one of our sankharas, one of our habitual, tendencies.
Past life relations, huh?
Definitely, if we, and sometime our the short temper, what we call, that nature can come from our previous, the conditionings and then, habitual patterns that we have developed in our previous lives. And so...
Because when you develop good things, it also goes to samsara.
Exactly.
You develop bad things, goes to samsara too.
And our tendency to, be patient, our tendency to, be compassionate can also come from our previous life. So whatever trainings that we are doing in this life is not going to end with our death. And whatever bad conditionings, unwholesome conditionings that, we are unconsciously, develop in our mind is not going to end in this life. So sometime certain, habitual, certain, tendencies, particular tendencies and also particular dispositions. Dispositions can come from our previous lives, definitely. So therefore, and so sometimes, we may start, with, bad disposition, unwholesome tendency. But good thing about this sankhara and these dispositions and tendencies, they are not permanent. They are not fixed. If we have new training, new conditionings,
you can deform those habits.
We can reform, reform and deform and uncondition those.
Or deconstruct. Interesting.
Exactly.
What about the impact from the environmental factors? Let's say somebody is born into a neighborhood of crimes where everybody is trying to, attack each other. In a country like Sri Lanka, we were there for long. I mean, there was a civil war, 30 years. You hear every day somebody passed away, 30 over soldiers killed, and 30 over. I mean, this kind of mental, probably news, watching news in the morning, the social media.
Exactly, that is another kind of conditioning. So we have conditioning from our previous lives, and then we are also continuing to condition by the present life. And you also, it's also related to your previous question about whether we can get anger from our parents, and or from our family. Definitely not our family, our social environment, our media. All the things are conditioning us. So definitely, if we are in such an environmental situation, if we haven't developed our mindfulness enough, we are definitely going to be victims of our surroundings. We are definitely going to be victims, of the people who are we with, and they are going to influence us. We will learn, unconsciously learn those, tendency to get irritable, to get angry and react and be violent from the environment. So most of us, haven't, even particular children, they haven't developed their mindfulness enough, and therefore they are really vulnerable to the environment. That is why when we train our children, we have to make sure that we give a good environment to them. And you ask about, whether like a generational anger, whether it's one generation is angry with certain group of people, whether that will be, transmitted to the
passing down to the
next generation. I don't think, Bhante, there's a strong genetic connection here, but it's mainly upbringing, again in social conditionings. Because, children learn from watching the parents. And even, let's say one parent has a phobia, like a mother is afraid of cats, for example. We have certain specific phobias. Right? So, some people are afraid of,
different
spiders,
spiders, going to high places, different phobias.
Of course, some can be genetic.
They cannot sometimes see the blood; they get fainted.
But like in those, some phobias are learned by children by observing parents. When there's a new object, come to children, they will look at their parents' expression, parents' reaction to that, and particularly the mother. And children always observing the mother
and copy and imitate.
Yeah, and if the mother is smiling, and he get the confidence that okay, this is not dangerous. If mother is like fearful and having different expression of the face, because they read our faces so much. They are good readers of our face.
Facial expressions.
Yeah, and they are also good imitators.
Yeah.
So, and that is why if parents like someone, and our children will also like them. And if parents dislike someone, and our children will also dislike them.
So you look at that kind of affinity.
Yeah, that
between generation. Okay.
The early conditioning is not verbal, can be even non-verbal, and they are really imitating everything in us, and they are observing all our facial expressions, our tone of the voice, our behavior, everything, and definitely that will be transmitted to them.
Right.
But maybe there's also, Bhante, some the brain, some neural network in our brain, because sometimes our certain tendency to have some disorders, and certain tendency to have some even like our ability to smart in studies. The brain, the neural network of the brain, certain aspect, certain portion of it can come from our parents too. So I'm not saying that everything is like total condition
genetic, but
because we are we are growing.
I mean, what you are trying to say is that although it happens, there is a way out. That there is something you can do. Train you.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah. So before we go to the good news, I think many of them are watching how to overcome. Now you are enough of talking anger and all that. Yeah. But before that, let me ask you, what are the health issues that someone may get through anger, maybe frustration? I recently found out somebody who said that my cancer may have come from anger towards somebody. Because I've been always angry. In some works like Visuddhimagga, they talk about there were people who said that when you are angry, you are developing lots of bile in your body, bile, B-I-L-E. So when you are so much into raga, you are creating lots of phlegm inside of you. If you are creating lots of moha, you are creating lots of what you call rheumatic issues. I mean, it's not the Acharya Buddhaghosa's thought. He said there were people who had these beliefs. So in the same way, I think you have studied psychology, psychotherapy to some extent. So with that understanding, do you see that anger may have caused certain psychological, physical illnesses?
Yeah. Exactly, because anger is a disturbed state of the body. Of course, it's a mental state.
You resist, resistance to the
resist to dislike, and then you develop hateful thoughts, and it's an emotional state. But very quickly, it influences the whole body. And whenever we are angry, our body is disturbed. And it's very state of
not smooth functioning,
and alert. And of course we know about different hormones that are released to our we know about cortisol. Cortisol is a very unhealthy hormone. So when we are angry, and this cortisol was released to the bloodstream, and then our body is getting ready to fight or to resist, and it is. Cortisol is important for us to have a quick reaction to a maybe dangerous situation. But if you are getting angry frequently, very frequently in a day, and those physical changes will affect badly.
Beyond the way.
Even let's have very simple example of our heartbeat, right? So usually our heartbeat, our heart is like usually for 1 minute our heart is beating for 72 times.
For a healthy person. Average healthy person.
It's just the average number. So 1 minute, 72 times. Okay. But when you are angry, it can be more than 100 times. Right?
That means you are overworking with make heart to overwork.
Imagine that you get angry few times a day, many times a day. Every time you raise your heartbeat. And then what you are doing, you are actually draining your heart because it's beating so fast, then it should beat. So even that example, we can say that what kind of physical impact it can do to our body. Definitely, we will eventually develop, health issues because of the anger. And in fact, actually, Buddha has mentioned in one sutta that even in the Agatha, suttas, that the anger can do harm to us, and enemy will wish for us. The Buddha said, the enemy will like for us to sleep badly, and the anger does it. And the enemy will wish for us to look ugly, and the anger does it.
That's it.
And enemy will wish that we may lose our reputation, and anger does it. And enemy will wish us to get sick, and anger
So
does
anger
it.
is the super enemy then.
Yeah,
The real, true enemy.
Yeah. Anger and the enemy will wish us to become poor and lose our wealth, and anger does it. And then ultimately Buddha said that the enemy will wish us to have a bad rebirth, bad destination after our death, and that will be a wish of an enemy. But anger does it for us. Yeah. So definitely there are a lot of physical.
And I think finally all these lead to an enormous level of stress. When you have stress, because you can't handle, as we talk about angry thoughts and angry feelings, that will lead to stress related issues, like for example diabetes. Now there is one diabetes that happens not from the food but from the extra secretion of adrenaline. And when adrenaline is further released, then what happens? It is that amount of adrenaline is going to attack the insulin deposits in the pancreas. Then the insulin will be back to the sugar. Because when the adrenaline is more, they are going to attack the insulin deposit actually in the pancreas. So I think cardiovascular issues, especially the blood pressure issues, diabetes, so many issues have come. So definitely we have to deal with it. So Bhante, how to deal with angry thoughts and angry feelings from a Buddhist point of view? Of course, everybody knows metta, loving kindness or unlimited friendliness. So how do you explain this antidote to anger and dosa? You can start maybe.
One common answer definitely would be Bhante, antidote to anger is metta. But the problem is that,
how can you practice metta?
When we are angry, how we can quickly jump into metta? It's not practical. I mean, so the metta is given in the Buddhist sources to develop before you get angry, not when you get angry.
It's a pre-practice.
It's a preparation.
So what is the practice during the time?
Oh, that's a good point. We will go back to the mechanism of anger, how Buddha described how anger arises. Two things. Patigha nimitta, the irritable person or irritable object or something that is disagreeable, and then unwise thinking.
Unwise thinking. Ayoniso manasikara.
So these are the two main ingredients. So when we are angry, how we can handle this is actually changing how we think about that irritable thing, object. So it's by changing the thoughts, we can change the emotions. So we really have to focus on how we think about it. So and then therefore how to deal with anger is actually first is the recognition.
Can we give some small steps? Now we already figured out pre-practice. Practice during the time.
During anger,
and then?
So practice during the anger has few steps. Right? So of course practicing metta, karuna, all these things are preparing your mind, and you will less likely to get angry in the first place when you practice metta enough. And maybe you have less chances to get angry when your metta is strong, because whenever you see an irritable person or difficult person, you develop compassion rather than anger. But when you are angry, now different tools to use. First is recognizing, being aware that I am out of normal. And you can use your bodily changes. If you notice your breath is fast, your heartbeat is up, and you are tense muscles, and that indicates, okay, I'm not normal. I'm angry. So just first
accept
that
we are
mindfulness. Angry. First become aware, mindfulness, and become aware that I am not normal now. So that is the initial thing that we had to, of course, we have to have some training beforehand also to do that. And so how to handle anger is first is to recognize and become aware that I am angry. And actually, even not necessarily identifying with anger. Like rather than saying I am angry, maybe the best way to recognize that anger has arisen. we don't have to claim ownership to anger.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
At least to accept that.
It's a different states of mind. You know, we can be angry at one time, we can be kind at another time, we can be patient another time. So these are the only fleeting states of the mind. So we don't have to necessarily
embrace. So yeah.
We become aware of it, and then that awareness, that becoming aware, is the beginning point of going to changing the state, angry state of the mind. So becoming aware is the first thing, and then once you become aware, now you know that this is not the normal state, and then what we can do, you can go back to that particular nimitta, whatever the person or the incident or the object that trigger this anger. And you have to go to that. And then you have to re-evaluate your initial interpretation of that object. Let's say someone is cold. I mean, one good example would be, Bhante, sometimes people get angry when someone honk behind them. Yeah, when you are driving and someone honk behind you. Of course, honk
road rage.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Ultimately.
Yeah. Why did you honk? Did I do a
and
wrong
maybe
thing?
sometime someone cut you through and get it to your lane. Okay, when that thing happen, okay, we see it. It's an irritable experience, not something you approve. It's a disagreeable. It can be dangerous too. It's someone cut you through, and then you interpret it. Okay, you say, oh, this person want to defeat me, and this person want to go before me, and this person want to. So we think that this person purposely want to attack me. And that's how we interpret it. And if we interpret it in that way, definitely we will get angry. And let's say when you're driving, someone cut you through, you are really upset about it, and then you really get angry, and you really want to do something to that person, and you are having this heartbeat, and your body is different, and suddenly you become aware, oh, my goodness, my body is different, I'm in this state. And that awareness, becoming aware, is the key. And you become aware of it. Okay, now you realize that, okay, this is happening in me, this is not helping, this is not healthy. Let me revisit the irritable incident. This person cut me through. And then you try to re-evaluate, So my interpretation of that action is that that person want to purposely hurt me, that person want to purposely do something to me. You personalize it. And you can re-evaluate that interpretation. Is it true? And
probably he must have honked at me to stop an accident. Probably, which I did not get.
No, and the person who maybe cut me through, maybe he's rushing to hospital.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
Never
right?
knows.
So we don't know. So you re-evaluate your interpretation and try to maybe change it. Maybe give an alternative interpretation. Maybe he didn't mean to necessarily attack me or direct towards me. Maybe he's having his own issues. Maybe he's having, he's having a bad day. So you reinterpret the same incident, same irritable, disagreeable incident, but in a different way. Once you change the interpretation, you change the emotional state. So I think that will be the way we have to handle the anger.
Would you relate this to the famous acronym which goes by RAIN? Proposed by the Insight Meditation Society in the US. R to recognize, A to accept, I to investigate that emotion, and then N to non-identify. Let's say, as you said, we have to recognize our angry emotion. We have to accept it. I got it now. It has arisen already in me. And we have to investigate physically, mentally, psychologically, and whatever ways. And we have to non-identify. We have to deconstruct me from that event. Because we always relate, he blamed me, I have to respond. Right? So something similar, right?
I think they get the wisdom from the Buddhist discourses, and they present it in a modern way.
Nice, interesting way.
Interesting way, and it is changing the ayoniso manasikara. But first accepting, mindfulness, and then proper investigation, proper wise attention, wise thinking. But there is also other way to handle anger, Bhante. And in the, you mentioned about Agahata Pativinaya Suttas. There are a number of suttas.
Number of suttas goes by that name.
And there's one sutta given by Venerable Sariputta. And they are actually, in one Agahata Pativinaya Sutta, he explained a very interesting method to overcome our anger when we're having anger, particularly when we're having anger towards people. So there he mentioned, we may be angry because of certain behavior of a person. Maybe he's the way he speak. Some people can be very sharp in their speech, right?
Maybe
So,
in modern word we are straight. I tell what I want to say.
yes,
Sharp means too
Yeah,
straight maybe.
And sometimes can be so too critical in their speech.
Yes.
So Venerable Sariputta suggests that if someone is irritating you because of their speech, focus their deeds.
Good side, huh?
Good side.
Good deeds, but
Actually,
not the bad words.
Actually, what he's really suggesting us, whenever you see some negative, irritable aspect of a person, you accept it, that person has this bad way of speaking, but there are some other good aspects too, because no one person is completely bad, and no one person is completely good except, enlightened ones. So therefore, everyone has good and bad things. So the way to overcome our anger is not to too much focus on negativity, because when we are angry with person, we have very biased image of that
Pick
person.
up only the bad side.
Bad side.
Yeah.
We know how to collect all his bad side. We know how to remember all the bad incidents I had
And
with
spread
them.
over his bad things in our mind the whole day.
And
Spread
then we
over.
create a very ugly image of that person.
Yeah, maybe spread out too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so therefore, Venerable Sariputta is suggesting us, and when you and try to focus on one good side. If his speech is bad, focus on his good deeds. If he have done something really hurtful to you by his body, and then focus on some good words he has spoken before.
Other way around.
Before. So try to find some good aspect.
Some
of
goodness.
it. Is simile given by him by Venerable Sariputta is very interesting. He's talking about a trash cloth. If someone has thrown away a rag cloth, trash cloth, but someone is looking for a piece of cloth and found this dirty cloth thrown on the street. But you need cloth. And you see that there in this piece of cloth there are dirty parts, there are worn out parts, but there are also good parts in this. So as an intelligent, smart person will get that piece of dirty cloth and then remove the dirty parts, remove the worn out part, and then take the good part and make use of it. So in the same way, we should look at the people like that. And then he goes in to say that, okay, what if that person is bad in the way he speak, and also very bad the way he do things, and then what you do? And the Venerable Sariputta is still giving us an option. Okay, and in that case, people who are bad in their speech and words, once in a while they may do some good thing.
Periodically.
So therefore we have to focus on that little bit good thing. Maybe that person is very critical, very always criticizing me, blaming me, accusing me, and he has also hurt me a lot. But maybe a few years ago, he gave me a birthday gift. Maybe many years ago,
20 years ago,
he helped me. He helped me. So just remember one little good thing that person has done once in a while.
So
and
always
maybe not even to ourselves. Maybe
another person
this is
too.
very bad to me, but I have seen that person was generous to that poor family, and he was generous to to the temple. And think about maybe even he just visited the temple during Vesak. Like once in a while, he has done some good thing, and we have to purposely remember. We have to purposely bring to our mind that good aspect. This is done not to help the other person. This is done to help ourselves, to manage our own aghata, our own anger, because this is for our own health, own well-being. So therefore, we try to find some goodness in that person, and then and remove our anger. And then, Venerable Sariputta also asks us, what if that person is bad in the speech, bad in the deeds? He also do not do any good thing, even once in a while. Very rare to find such a person. But let's imagine we have to deal with such a person. There's nothing good about him or her. And how we can deal with that person. Again, when the Sariputta advised us, in that case, what we have to do, develop compassion. Because he said that if there's such a person, he's definitely going to have a lot of bad karma. He's definitely going to have a lot of suffering in his life. And he's giving a simile. Imagine that there was a traveler who is prepared to travel a long journey. And you realize that person does not have enough food with him, and he's sick, but he's now going to make this journey. What's going to happen? definitely this person is going to meet a lot of troubles because he doesn't have enough food and he is also sick. And therefore, definitely this person will have a lot of suffering problems and pain. And what we have to do, if you meet such a person, develop compassion, if possible, help. So Venerable Sariputta said that if someone is completely bad, definitely that person is going to be born in a bad destination, is going to have a lot of bad other consequences in this life, is going to have a terrible life, difficult life, painful life. Develop compassion. Develop compassion and help and even wish. I usually ask people, if you cannot wish someone to be happy because that person have make you unhappy, that person has hurt you a lot. If you have a hard time in your mind, in your practice, that you don't feel like wishing that person to be happy, please wish that person to be wise. That is something that you can wish, right? Because if that person is wise, that person is remove his ignorance, if that person can overcome his darkness, that will be good for everyone.
Yeah.
So at least wish, may that person to be wise.
Rather calling you stupid people, huh?
Yes.
Trying to wish.
Yeah, wish, may this person be wise, may this person be able to overcome his own darkness, and at least make that wish.
Yeah.
That will help us to heal ourselves.
So, the moral here is that to pick up only the good things. If there is not enough good thing, at least to pick up the dart of the drop of the good thing.
Yes.
There's no good thing at all.
Compassion.
Try to wish that person to come with some wisdom to practice.
Exactly.
So I mean, such a very interesting way.
That will be a nice summary, Bhante.
Let's recap, Bhante, the last part now, and then we will wrap this up at that point. Now we are suggesting followers over here, people who are watching here, in order to overcome your angry thoughts or angry feelings, you have to consider about 3 stages. One is a pre-practice, one is a practice on board, one is
remedial measures.
Remedial measures can be looked at in 3 ways: pre-practice, a practice on board, and after practice.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe post-practice. So, can you summarize what is a good metta practice? People practice metta in different ways, their own versions. What could be a very true good way that the Buddha asks us to practice metta? In many suttas, Buddha says if you practice metta even for a short time, the good karma you are creating is going beyond even giving a dana, actually,
Yes.
the Buddha.
Yeah.
So it seems to be such a very interesting thing.
Yeah.
So how to practice metta in a proper true way, according to probably Metta Sutta or many other suttas, if you can actually combine.
Yeah. Yes, Bhante.
In a simple way, not in a very
simple
complicated way.
In a simple way. Metta is actually a underlying wish, willingness in our heart for the benevolence, for the well-being of the other person, right? So one good way is to practice metta. Is actually, maybe we can learn as kind of mantra. Usually I have taught people to chant one very important phrase from the Metta Sutta. Sabbe sattha bhavantu sukhitatta. May all beings have happy minds. I like the term minds because our body, can easily get sick, and it can because we are
very vulnerable,
fragile body. Yeah. But our mind can be we can make it peaceful and happy even though our body is sick. So therefore, when you make that wish that may all beings have happy minds, so we can use it as a mantra, and whenever you are driving, whenever you are doing other things, and just keep repeating that wish. Even we can say in Pali, Sabbe sattaha bhavantu sukhitatta. And I have, taught that chant to, some Americans who are having, anger issues, in their workplace and, with their bosses and colleagues. And whenever you feel, irritated and angry, and just keep chanting very quickly. Before your mind will create these stories and, before the ionis or manasikara, unwise thinking comes, quickly repeat these wishes. And they have, reached the benefits of that. So just constant, wishing may all beings have happy minds. May sabbe sattha bhavantu sukhitatta. So having such a ready-made wish all the time is such a good thing. Of course, when we are truly practicing in the meditative context, definitely we can, we can wish well-being. Actually, traditionally, we wish other people to be free from hate. Starting from that, right? And free from hate, and wish other people to have physical comfort, mental peace, and then may they continue, their well-being and peace. So I would say when you're practicing in the meditative context, maintain, generate this genuine wish of well-being to all living beings with understanding that everyone is vulnerable to experience suffering until we attain enlightenment. So therefore, just have that empathy and then wish well-being to everyone, and then wish well-being to people living in far, near and far. And while we are not meditating, while we are doing other things, and have this ready-made phrase, may all beings have happy minds. May all beings have happy minds. And that can help us to develop our metta, Bhante.
Interesting. Then let's talk about what can someone do when they are in anger. They know that they are in anger. Now what can they do? A very simple...
Mindfulness, reinterpretation.
Mindfulness?
Means, become aware that I'm angry. And then observe the physical changes.
Yes. But what to do after that?
And then because once you recognize that I'm angry and you observe the physical changes,
you will diminish from.
And then maybe before you start reinterpreting, maybe we can relax our body for a moment. Become aware, mindfulness. And I would say even like when you see the tense muscles and the heartbeat, everything, take a deep breath. And first relax your body. And then go to your irritable moment, irritable object, and reinterpret. Reinterpret how you thought about it. Change the interpretation, change your meaning that we have given to it. And so mindfulness, maybe physical relaxation with the breath, and reinterpreting how we interpreted the negative.
What are the other alternatives? I have seen some people, they go for a walk. They are very angry, go for a walk, and they see different people. And so stuff. Actually, what are the other ways as such?
No. It's a good practice too, Bhante. Because you don't want to dwell in this negative interpretation all the time. So in order to think differently, to have different exposure, you can do something else. You can listen to music, and you can talk to a good friend. And then you can go for a walk, and you can drink some water. Drinking water is such a good thing, right? And drinking water, and you can do those things. But at the same time,
so the steps are not that hard, if you know how to do it.
Exactly.
Not expensive too.
Yeah. But there's also one other maybe preventive method could be that sometimes if you know the irritable people, or if you know the situation that means conducive to make you feel angry, if possible, avoid those places.
Okay.
What we call parivajjana, right? And
Sabbasava Sutta Majjhima Nikaya too.
Sometimes we have to think about there are certain environments, there are certain situations that may generate anger in us. If possible,
walk away. Not go in there too.
If you have developed your mindfulness enough, if you are confident about your mindfulness and wisdom, purposely go and see how much you can stay without getting angry. But until then, avoid. And don't have
So what you suggest is we can do certain relaxation practices for the body, as well as we can practice some of the alternatives like going for a walk, maybe drinking some water, talking to friends, probably changing the environment. Many things.
Go to a different place. Change the environment.
Yes.
One method I remember. One of my devotees explained when he was a little boy. He had this anger issue. He always fights with his sisters, fight with everyone. So whenever he is angry and fighting with others, and his father bring him to the room where they venerate the Buddha. We have the Buddha statue there, and his father put him in that room and locked the room
with the Buddha.
So only thing he has to see is the Buddha statue. He said whenever he sees the statue of the Buddha, his anger is gone. So that is what his father did to help this little boy to overcome his anger. So one method could be actually look at the serene face of the Buddhist statue. that can help too.
Bhante, finally, before we see any questions, folks, if you have any questions, friends, please type in them as comments before we jump on to the last thing. Now, there are things people can do before as a pre-practice. There are things they can do at the same time while they are facing anger. Suppose there are people that they've been already angry, they have made mistakes. Now they don't want them to happen again, they want to repeat again. Now what can they do? How they understand the problem? As you said, Yoniso Manasikara is the starting point, and then
if they already know that they have this issue with the anger, and they have past bad experiences, those bad experiences will be good lessons, Bhante, good lessons, because they know that what kind of consequences they had.
Yeah.
Maybe they have to put more effort to practice metta before they get angry. Like in other times when there's no irritable things around them, and then develop like prepare well. Prepare well, do more preparation. So, and if you have done some, angry things and, some, unwise things in the past, that's okay. That's okay. We have to accept it because that's gone actually, Bhante. That's gone. We cannot change past, but only we can learn from it and then forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for that mistakes. And make determination. I will try my best not to repeat the same, bad things I did. And then use it as a lesson to move forward, because our personality is not permanent, it's not fixed. We are still in the making, and then we are still, we still can change things. So I would say, forgive yourself and move forward. And
forgive yourself. Forgiving. Actually, some people are not happy to forgive. They think when we forgive, other people are happy. Actually, when you forgive, you heal first from yourself, right? Yeah.
And even forgive oneself,
Oneself, yeah.
We are still, practitioners, and we may not be perfect, we have to forgive ourselves for things we may have done unwisely in the previous time, and then we can move forward.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, Bhante, before I invite you to do a conclusion of anything, let me see any questions. Someone here is asking a question about, Bhante, please touch on the passive-aggressive behavior. I think we had a talk. There are people who does not try to talk straight, but showing anger, passive-aggressive behavior. So, how to work with that kind of person if you are settled down already?
Passive anger is a very important aspect, that, we really have to pay attention, because sometimes we express our anger with our speech, with our behavior, we throw things, we, hit things, we shout, but sometimes most frequent what we experience is what we call passive anger. Other person is unhappy, but not expressing clearly, but, giving a cold shoulder, and then, not talking and not smiling, maybe fake smile, and that is really hard to deal with. Really hard to deal with, Bhante.
So how to deal with, let's say somebody has settled down with someone who has passive-aggressive anger. Maybe somebody is working in a company, workplace, they are not talking to you, but you feel hurt all the time when they talk, what they do. So, what can we do?
You have to be very, very skillful to handle. And maybe first we have to observe in ourselves, are we also having passive anger? We are unhappy with the situation and the person, you don't express, but you are express with your facial, you are without knowing, you will express with your facial expression, your tone of the word, your cold response, and not not willing to support or helpful. We have to first recognize our passive anger and then make sure that we are not really doing it, and we first pacify it and then be more friendly to other person. But dealing with other passive anger requires a lot of skillfulness.
And as you said that if we cannot do much, we can wish, may this person have some wisdom to come out of this issue, right?
I have deal with passive anger. We don't have time to explain all these stories. But then what we can do is actually having a genuine wish of well-being. Like let's say a person is in front of you. You are living with that person, with the work person.
Problem-making person.
And then and that person is having the passive anger. You know that person is not happy, although it doesn't express clearly. Then in your heart, develop loving kindness. Because there's a non-verbal communication going on here. So genuinely, we know that person is suffering. That person is not happy, not settled, not contented, having some issues. We don't know what it is, but he's still having this thing in your heart. Genuinely, truly wish that person, may he be settled. May this person find peace. May this person be contented. And genuinely have that wish. When you continuously have that wish, it's somehow communicated to the other person in a non-verbal way, with our energy,
non-physically,
non-physical way, and that can help. That can help. And on the other hand, maybe we have to be skillful in doing and creating some situation that the other person can become cheerful. Let's say that person is like not talking to you, and then maybe you make a nice tea. For him,
like the Zen story, yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe you do something that make that person pleased. If it is a family member, you really want to overcome it. One is genuinely wishing that person well-being, and that can influence, or maybe skillfully do something to cheer that person up. That's
one small question is, someone is asking, can you share some small steps, effective tips for children who get angry? I think you might say, lock that person with a Buddha statue. What could be some few steps, maybe 1, 2, 3 steps?
How the children can use dealing with anger.
Anger, there are some angry, difficult kids, They cannot manage their anger.
For children, maybe we had a slightly different approach. As Bhante mentioned, maybe we can give them more tools, Whenever they are angry, get the image of the Buddha statue from their pocket and have a look at them, That would be one. So we have to think about it, how children can, train and use.
Probably change in the environment in a way, maybe practice some small level of mindfulness.
One best practice would be, Bhante, if children are willing to do some, practice, is take 10 mindful breaths. That will break their momentum of the, angry thought. That will change their, unwise thinking, like developing stories. So ask them to take 10 mindful breaths. Even if 10 is too long, maybe 10 will be too much for
us
children.
Yeah.
Ask them to take 3 long breaths. Because when you take a long breath, our body is changing itself into what we call parasympathetic mode, which is a very healing state. So one good practice would be for children to teach them to take 3 deep breaths. That will change their mental state, and then they can move forward.
All right, Bhante. So can you then conclude? If there's anything that you have missed out on saying, you can now say, probably say 1-2 minutes.
We covered quite a bit, Bhante.
Quite a bit,
yeah,
okay.
Quite a bit,
you want to say anything finally to the audience?
Yeah, I'm glad that, we all had this nice, discussion, and there are many people who are interested in knowing this. I think anger is a common issue that we all have. There are different levels of anger, as we discussed.
We don't have to be afraid of anger.
Yeah.
We have to deal with it.
Deal with it.
We have a pre-practice, practice during the time, practice after.
I think we have enough tools.
Enough tools
of the Buddha to deal with it. And it's a very common human, thing, and so therefore it's very common. So we just have to gradually train ourselves to go beyond that. So I think anger also will help us to, to point out, like an important issue that we need to pay attention to. So anger can be teacher in that sense. So that will be my final words, Bhante.
Yes.
So please use the anger as a teacher. That will be a beginning point of a spiritual journey, because once you start learning and applying these techniques, it's not only reduce your anger, actually it's also increase so many other spiritual qualities, skills in us that can help us to have a more spiritual growth. So use your anger as a teacher and start practicing these techniques, and then continue a spiritual journey, and we will one day be able to create a mind that nothing can disturb us and nothing can hurt us. That will be the greatest place to be. We all can work towards that direction.
Right. with those words, thank you, Bhante Dr. Pemaratana.
Most welcome, Bhante.
Bhante Dr. Pemaratana is the chief monk, the abbot of Pittsburgh Buddhist Vihara in Pittsburgh. If you are around, maybe you can pay a visit to the center.
Yes.
And he's also going to teach in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
So
John Carroll University.
John Carroll University. So you can stay tuned with him too. Thank you, Bhante.
Welcome, Bhante.
Wishing you a day with lots of insights about anger management, then dealing with anger. Hopefully we will come back with another interesting discussion. Thank you. Have a good day. Take care.
Thanks. So nice to see you or meet you all and have a discussion. And again, thank you very much, Bhante, for this invitation and this very lively, very interesting discussion. Thank you, Bhante.
Happy, very happy to.